Hello and welcome to episode 157 of Gamers the Last Mark podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Chasson, and joining me this week, he's fresh from the land of beer. It's Mr. Steve Carter. Hello, sir. How are you doing?
I'm very good, sir. I'm very good. It's good to be back. It's been a while. It's been a while. It's been too long since we've got behind the mic. Too long since I've been able to justify a midweek beer by doing a podcast.
How is things in points of brew?
It's very good. It's very good. As we were just discussing before we started, I'm donning my latest batch of quote unquote merchandise. Got myself a printed shirt with the blog
very
logo
nice.
on, which Anna lovingly purchased for me. So I'm sporting that at the moment. So, but yeah, it's good. It's good. It's the Instagram account's coming along nicely. So just up to about 1,500 followers on there now. So yeah, it's going quite nicely. So I've not done anything on the actual blog or the YouTube channel for a while because I've just been focused on the Instagram kind of thing at the moment because it seems to be the most popular outlet at the moment. But yes, it's going nicely, and I've got to know quite a few people, met a few nice people over the time of me going to different breweries and different events. So yes, it's I'm quite happy with where it's going at the moment. So yeah, not quite at world domination level just yet, but you know, the t-shirt is the start of the end for everybody else. But yeah, it's I'm still enjoying it. I'm still enjoying it because I just enjoy beer. So you know, I just like drinking beer and I like talking about beer. So what's not to like?
So what are you drinking this evening? I thought just before I came up, I looked in the fridge, I opened the fridge, I was going to get water, I was going to be healthy, but I thought no, I'm potting with Steve. I have to bring a beer, so I kind of got a beer. I have a beer in one of my water tower glasses. I've got a very kind of just a normal shop beer. You know, this is a Sierra Nevada pale ale.
It's a steady choice.
It's a steady. It's good for a Thursday. It's good for a Thursday. We're recording this on Thursday, the 1st of August. So it's good for a Thursday. I thought I got some the other day. I was making. We're either making pizzas or burgers or something in the garden. So I just thought I wanted something easy drinking that would go with that. So I'm still trying to find good pairings for pizzas. But the Sierra Nevada kind of pale ale. They do an extra pale ale as well, and they do another one, don't they? Like a double pale ale or something like that as well. That was quite nice. But this one's just a nice kind of easy drinking. So what are you supping through the podcast?
So this one's a little bit stronger. So it's by Eden River Brewing Company from up in Cumbria. My dad bought this while they were up in the Lake District a few weeks back now. But it's a double IPA. So I've kind of gone a little bit larger or a bit bigger on this one, so I'm just trying to find out what percentage it is, which I'm guessing it's around 7 or 8% with it being a double. Oh yeah, 7.6. Yeah. 7.6, there we go. So yeah, like I say, I'd try and, bizarrely enough, try and stave off from drinking through the week, but a podcast's as good an excuse as any to have a midweek tipple. So yes, I like to wet the old whistle with a beer during a podcast.
Indeed.
So.
We won't be burping, I promise. We won't be
burping. No. Not like root beer gate last time. So
No, we've learned our lesson from that one. Yeah. We've learned, actually, it's quite funny, when I was going through the fridge, I was like, do I have water? And there was a root beer. There was actually a couple of root beers sitting at the back of the fridge going, come on, you have fun when I'm around.
And then you remembered last time.
Yes, I went for the beer instead. So, apart from drinking some awesome beers, and I must say, kind of following you on Untapped and seeing you on social media, you've been drinking some really fine beers recently. So you've really been pushing the beering envelope.
Yeah, well, I like I said, I try to kind of not catch up on a weekend, but I try and drink enough to give me enough content to post through the week anyway. Be that either drinking at home or going out and about, and I'm trying as much as I can to go to some new places, some new breweries, tap rooms, and the places that we do go out to, the cities that we normally go to, so like Leeds and York. I try and call a couple of pubs whilst we're there just to give, try a couple of new beers. So on Saturday last week, we went into York, a couple of the guys from work. We went out, so before the night descended into utter chaos, I managed to drink a few nice beers. Went to a couple of places that were my scene before they went into the little hovels of Selby, and then that's when it rapidly descended into utter chaos, and I kind of stumbled in at about I think it was about 1:00 in the morning, and then I was fully dying swan on Sunday morning. So yeah, that's when it went downhill. But yeah, I'm trying to get myself out and about a bit more, because I'm not said anything really official or done anything with it yet, but I'm trying to go down a more sort of local route at the moment. So trying to try a lot more local beers, because everyone kind of looks at the big beers, the hype beers, everyone's kind of sort of scrambling for, but I kind of focus on the smaller breweries, the ones that are more local to me. So I think kind of the next 6 months or so, I'm just going to try and focus on more local beers that I can get a bit more locally, and then they're not so much well publicised, so they get a bit more exposure than the bigger guys out there. So yeah, there's a nice little craft beer shop that's opened in Castleford, which is 10 minutes away from me, that just sells beers from Yorkshire. So they're just purely from this local area. So they're more like craft beer breweries and real ale breweries. So I'm kind of going to go down more their steer, I think, in the next sort of coming months, just to kind of give myself a bit more of a unique angle, as opposed to people going for the big beers that are out there. So yeah, but like I say, for as long as I enjoy beer, which I think is going to be pretty much for ever, I'll still keep posting about beer, and putting beer out there. So, but yeah, it's as much as people think I'm a saddo for doing it, and for get off my phone, 'cause I'm always on Instagram, I actually really enjoy it, and I actually talk to a lot of people that otherwise I would never have actually spoken to by doing it. So, but by doing what I did when I was doing my gaming Twitter account, I would never have got speaking to you guys by doing it. So, it's pretty much the same there. And I've been toying with the idea of maybe doing a beer podcast at some stage as well. So that's a bit of a pipe dream at the moment, but we'll see if I can get the necessary people and means together. That might be something that I'll look at in the future.
That would be really cool. Just kind of going through, like you say, going through all of those different beers that you've been drinking, and kind of like highlighting and showcasing kind of local breweries. That'd be really cool.
Yeah. So like I say, everyone goes for want of a better phrase, the low-hanging fruit of the big breweries, the big beers that, are Verdant, for example, or Cloudwater releases, and everyone scrambles to get their hands on it and be the first to drink it and first to rate it and post a picture of it, blah, blah, blah. But then there's a lot of little and small breweries that put some great beers out there that otherwise don't get any publicity. So, so I'm looking forward to that, because I was talking to a guy about it yesterday or the day before, and I'm like, if you kind of get a beer that's hyped and you don't enjoy it, then that's kind of ruined it for you. Whereas if you get a beer that by somebody you don't know anything about necessarily, it's got the possibility to kind of be better than sort of the bigger beers out there. So it's kind of, in a way, not guaranteed, but you're more likely to get a better drink out of a beer that you know nothing about than one that you've kind of seen lots about. So, which I suppose in a way is a bit like games, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
It's a kind of comparing AAA games to indie games, I suppose. But yeah, it's going nicely. It's going nicely. It's going in the right direction anyway.
Excellent stuff. So apart from beering, what else have you been up to? Because like I say, it's been a while since we've been podding.
Yeah.
How's your archery? We haven't kind of like...
Yeah, it's still going.
Is it not archery season now?
No,
it should be archery season because you've got no wind.
It's always archery season. I shoot indoors because I'm a bit of a girl, because I don't like shooting outside, because it'll either be too hot, it'll be too cold, it'll be too windy, it'll be too rainy. So,
right.
And the wind affects your archery, and I don't like that. So I just shoot indoors. So we didn't shoot last week. People turned up. But yeah, due to shoot tomorrow. But yeah, it's going. I kind of progressed quite well when I came back, and I've kind of regressed a little bit. So I bought all my own kit for it and everything, got it all set up nicely, and then I've kind of gone backwards a little bit. So I've kind of gone back to the beginner's setup that I got from the club that I've always shot at. Gone back to basics, tried to get back into a bit of form, then I'll jump back to my own kit and my own gear. So, but I enjoy it. It's something a bit different. So, it's just something that me and my dad can go do, because we don't play cricket anymore, either of us, because I stopped playing cricket because I just get broken every time that I play these days. So, but yeah, it's something that me and him can go do on a Friday night. We can go shoot and then come back and have a few beers afterwards. So it's more, I keep doing it when I'm annoyed with myself more than anything, because my dad does it. So it's nice just to have a bit of time together with my dad. Like I said, just go have a drink. There's a microbrewery not far from where we go shoot, so if we're done in time, we'll go have a beer there afterwards.
I thought beer had to be involved somewhere.
yeah, well, exactly. Is there any point if we can't tie beer in? So, or if not, if we're not done in time there, we'll just come back and share a few cans at home before I head home.
Right.
So yeah, but I still enjoy it, and I always wanted to get back into it when I stopped doing it when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm not going to kind of be shooting in the Olympics anytime soon or breaking any records, but keeps me active. Something niche, something a bit different, So, but yeah, it's something everyone should try, I think. All joking aside, for people saying, "Oh, do you wear tights, etc." I think it's a lot more difficult than it looks at times. So it's like, I think it's like shooting a gun. Really, it's like, I know shooting a gun, you don't have to pull the poundage of the gun, but there's a bit more skill to it and a bit more, than just pulling a trigger or just firing an arrow. So it can be tricky at times.
Yes, I think I've tried before. I think years ago when I was younger, I think I tried to kind of do some archery. Maybe it was like an after-school club, or it might have even been kind of during school time. And I remember just the arrows just maybe kind of flying straight upwards. When I kind of let go, there was no control at all. And, surprisingly, I had no control at all. So I don't doubt that there is a lot of skill involved, in getting that, especially if you're getting it close to the bullseye. That's some fine precision.
Well, there's so many. There's different bows you can shoot, and there's different targets and distances you can shoot as well. So it's like, it depends how you want to shoot, what you want to shoot, that sort of thing. So yeah, but I just shoot a recurve bow, just not a traditional long bow, but just a 20 yards, I think, distance, which sounds easy, but it can be tricky. And then on the rare occasions that I shoot outdoors, go to 30 yards, which again, with the wind and the weather and everything, it gets a bit more complicated. But yeah, it's I enjoy it. It's something a bit different, like I say. Keeps me active, apart from my football that I do once a week. So, but apart from that, I've not really been doing much recently. I've been catching up on a lot of TV recently. So,
right.
Yeah. So the couple of games I've been playing, we'll get onto later. But I've mainly been catching up with a lot of TV recently. So, watched Chernobyl.
That was good, wasn't it? It's hard to say that was really good, but it was absolutely really bloody good. Especially that last episode. I found the last episode when they're kind of almost going through what happened, kind of beat by beat. Because of the 6 or 7 episodes that had gone before it, you really kind of knew exactly what they were talking about, and and I just felt the way that they the payoff at the end there, the payoff in the courtroom. I just thought that was just absolutely fantastic. I thought it was a really, really interesting program.
Yeah, and it's kind of not. It's like been the worst kept secret, hasn't it? Really, in terms of the ins and outs of it, in terms of what actually happened. But it's the first time it's really been kind of documented in terms of dramatized or anything, isn't it? There've been documentaries and things beforehand, but in terms of actually in a medium that most people will actually understand and enjoy, I think this is kind of the first time it's actually been done before, isn't it? So, but I thought, like, everything, the acting, the scripting, the CGI, everything was spot on, and it's in the adverts they were saying it's the highest rated TV program that there's been recently, and you can kind of see the reason as to why that is, can't you? So, but yeah, I really enjoyed it because I'm a bit of a history nerd myself, so I was always going to enjoy it, because I've always been aware of Chernobyl as a thing, because obviously being a 90s child, obviously it happened before my time, but with with likes of Call of Duty 4 covering it and just being a bit of a history buff, I was aware that it was a thing, but not to the extent of what actually happened, how they tried covering it up, the actual human cost of everything, in terms of how they had to repair it and cover it up and, cleanse the local area, that sort of thing. So, but that, Anna's not much of a history sort of person, but she really enjoyed it as well, because she isn't as much of a geek as I am, so she wasn't really aware of Chernobyl as a concept, but she really enjoyed it. So, but yeah, I thought it was just really an impactful watch, but I thought it was quite easy to watch in terms of once you kind of got sucked in by it, then you kind of, that was it. You kind of wanted to watch the next one, but I kind of staggered it out a little bit because I didn't want to watch it all in one go. So we kind of we'll watch an episode one night and then maybe one the next night and so I kind of to draw it out a little bit. So, But yeah, I really enjoyed that one.
And I think it was quite heavy as well. I think Nicola and I could only manage one a night, where with one thing that you'll probably get onto in a most, Stranger Things, we were watching, so Stranger Things dropped on a Thursday and we watched 2 episodes a night of Stranger Things because that was one of those ones where you could just watch more because it was just so good.
Yeah.
But with Chernobyl, it was a case of we watch one, and then maybe watch a comedy program or something, or, a baking program or something just to kind of lighten the mood after it. But yeah, no, it was really good. We're watching something else as well at the moment called The Loudest Voice, and it's about a chap called Roger Ailes, and it's basically Russell Crowe in a fat suit, but it's about the founder of Fox News, and it kind of has the same. It kind of like evokes the same emotions as Chernobyl, where you kind of like, you hate what's going on. The characters are just diabolical, especially at the start, and this all the way through. But it's so interesting and fascinating. It's become a Sunday night thing where this is like every Sunday. It's about just kind of what happened and how they created Fox News and just the toxicity behind Fox News and this chap. It's a 7-part. Well, I think we had part 5 on Sunday, and it's just so diabolical what's happening, and that one person would be this evil. But it, like I say, like Chernobyl, it's just one of those things where you kind of can't say that you look forward to it, but when it's there, I'm just like, oh yeah, let's watch that, and again, after that, you find yourself watching, an upbeat program or something just to kind of lift your spirits.
Yeah, lighten the mood a little bit.
Exactly, but that's like Loudest Voice. But like I say, Russell Crowe in a fat suit is just, he's absolutely superb. I'll be surprised if he wasn't up for some awards, kind of next year, because this is a real kind of political, it's absolutely fascinating just watching kind of what has unfolded in maybe the last 12 years, like kind of the creation of Fox News. And, like I say, it was incredible. I can see the Democrats kind of really kind of loving this program because it's very about the Republican Party. They've started talking about Trump. They're starting to talk about he'll run if Fox News back him. He'll run. It's starting to get to that point, and how down they were on Barack Obama. It's kind of, and that all of the kind of American politics I find incredibly interesting. And it's just so it's a really good program. It's called Loudest Voice. So so getting on to light-hearted things before we get on to gaming. You've been watching Stranger Things as well.
2 episodes in, because Anna struggles with Stranger Things a little bit because she eventually got into it, but the first sort of season it took her quite a few episodes to get into it, and I think it's taken her a couple of a little bit to get back into it as well, because she was really excited that it came back. Then she watched the first episode. I loved season 1 and 2, but I think we were talking in the group before, and you said I've not even watched the full season yet, but the start of the season already is fantastic, and it's just, I love it in terms of, I'm a 90s child, but I wish I grew up in the 80s, and this kind of gives, like, the way that they've designed, produced, scripted everything, this program, in terms of putting it in the 80s setting, is just staggering. It's like I said, I didn't grow up in the 80s, but I feel like this is kind of pretty much an exact representation of what 80s pretty much was in America. Do you know what I mean? And in terms of the soundtrack, even just the mall that's in this new season, going into there. Do you know when in the second episode when Elle goes into the shopping mall and everything, it's just like, just everything there has just been designed perfectly, and it's so incredible. When I first went into Stranger Things, I didn't look into anything about it in terms of the story necessarily, and I wasn't expecting the sci-fi part of what it actually was. I was kind of more expecting it to be more as Stranger Things are happening in terms of kids go missing, some weird things are happening in the neighbourhood, that sort of thing. There's been a few crimes, maybe a couple of murders, abductions, that sort of thing. I wasn't expecting this kind of massively underlying sci-fi element to it, and I think this start of this season, not to spoil it too much, there's kind of, at the start of it, there's kind of a little bit of political intrigue at the start of it anyway, isn't there? But then this sci-fi thing, literally from the get-go, because season 2 left it on the massive cliffhanger anyway, didn't it? In terms of, everything's fine, everything's dandy, it's all been sorted, da-da-da-da-da. It's like, boom, bombshell. And then it's like, oh, wait for season 3. And then I quite like how season 3 just kind of dropped. Like, I wasn't aware that it was actually coming. Then it's kind of like you say, just one random Thursday. oh, Stranger Things, the full season's now on Netflix. And like, huh? What? So I quite like that. I quite like when things kind of take you a bit by surprise. So yeah, we're kind of watching one episode a night of that because I could quite probably sit and binge 2 or 3 episodes at a time. Like I say, Anna's slowly getting into it a little bit more. Episode 2's kind of won around a little bit, but yeah, I really like the 80s setting. Like I say, the setting, the costumes, the music, that sort of thing. I'm a big fan of the 80s. You know, everything in terms of music, you know, technology, gaming, that sort of thing. So it kind of invokes those emotions that I wish I was around in that decade.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you know, for me, being older, it is like, I mean, older wiser for me, you know, it's every, you know, it's Ghostbusters, it's John Hughes movies, it's Steven Spielberg movies, you know, there's almost shot for shot of like aliens in there, you know, there is, like I say, there are the whole mall, the whole prom bit at the end of season 2 is just a John Hughes movie, you know, it's incredible when you watch that, just to know that the Duffer Brothers, who are, I think, slightly younger than me, but kind of definitely just were completely appreciative of 80s film and 80s culture, you know, and it was, you could just imagine, even though they were probably late 80s, early 90s, you know, they absolutely just loved that 80s cinema. And like I say, you know, you look through that movie, you watch that movie, there is just beat for beat references to all of those movies. You know, in some places you have like a table where they're all sitting around the table playing D&D, you know, that's almost like shot for E.T. You know, like I say, there's aliens, there's stuff. And actually, Nicola kind of sent me a link the other day, which was I think it was like a GQ YouTube clip. I'll try and find it and stick it in the show notes. That was kind of the Duffer Brothers talking about all of the things that have gone into this, you know, all the homages that they do throughout the entire thing. But season 3 so far is my absolute favourite. You know, I think I said to you the other night, so much so that we watched 2 a night. So from the Thursday that it dropped, the Sunday we watched the last 2. I think about a week went by, maybe a week and a half, and then Nicola and I ended up watching the last episode again, because the last episode is just incredible. It is even Game of Thrones, even including Game of Thrones, and I'm not sure about Mandalorian because that's obviously going to happen sometime this year. But it was the final episode of season 3 in Stranger Things was my favourite piece of TV so far this year. You know, it was absolutely superb, and so we just sat there one night. We was like, should we watch the last episode again? And we were like, yeah, because I guess we were so hyped, so kind of like, can't believe this happened. It was quite nice just to sit back and be a bit more relaxed watching it. We knew what was happening, so we could just kind of jump into it, and we really enjoyed just watching it, so much so that we were talking last night about going back through, because I think someone who works with Nicola, he'd never seen Stranger Things, so he's now kind of binging it in a great fashion. You know, this guy's really going through it, and I'm really impressed. You know, and so Nicola's like, maybe we should. And he's coming into work going, oh, there was that bit in season 2 where this and this and this, and she's like, maybe we should sit and watch it again, because it's only like 8 episodes per season, so it's not a big ask. We're watching The Boys at the moment on Amazon Prime, which is just flipping fantastic. The Boys on Amazon Prime is, oh my God, it's so good. It's kind of like an anti-superhero thing. It's a bit like Watchmen. Carl Urban is fantastic in it. You know, Carl Urban, who's been Bones, he's been Judge Dredd, he's now Butcher in The Boys, and he is just absolutely superb. There's just been some bits where this program is very adult. You know, it's 18 plus. It's so funny when it starts. We've watched 5 episodes now. When it starts, you just get this long list down the side of all the things, you know, contains
all
violence, nudity, you know, all of the drug take, you know, it just has all of the tick boxes. There was one, I thought they were going to go off the screen, you know, I thought they were going to like wrap round the other side, you know, and it's just like, but it's absolutely fantastic. It's a Garth Ennis graphic novel, but they've kind of gone. They're following the graphic novel, but they're colouring it outside the lines in a few things, which I quite like. You know, I quite enjoy it. But yeah, so going off, you know, the back of Stranger Things season 3 and into The Boys season 1, you know, it's a really good time for TV at the moment.
Yeah, there's a lot going on though, isn't there? Really, in terms of like a lot of episodes and series and what have you. I mean, I've kind of just looking up that a little bit, The Boys, in terms of what it actually is, and because I'd not actually heard of it until he mentioned it. So obviously, I've kind of slipped under the radar a little bit the last couple of months. So I'm kind of just reading up a little bit it now and just seeing what it's like. So that's definitely something I think that's definitely something that I'll be watching myself rather than with Anna. She doesn't get superheroes as much as I do, so I think that might be just one to watch by myself. So, but yeah, but
bear in mind, this isn't superheroes.
Yeah.
It's kind of like superheroes are kind of like the. I don't want to give any spoilers away, but superheroes are always the villains here in this piece, and it's just so good. Like Nicola, I wasn't sure if Nicola would like. I always kind of get her to sit down. We have a chess and 3-episode try on most new things. But I said just sit down, and the episode 1 starts with something that is just terrible, and when it happened both of us just gasped, but Nicola was like oh my god, and like put her face into a pillow, and then she was like, I'm not sure about this program. I was like, look, just continue watching, because it's going to be good. And last night we were chuckling, laughing. There was one bit that I just would love to talk about, but I'm not going to, and it was fantastic. It was like 10:30 and they're an hour each or 45 minutes, so we didn't watch another one because we had work and stuff, so which was a shame. Like Nicola's like, no, I'm going to bed. I think so we ended up not watching it, but this weekend we want to kind of finish it because it's just so good. It's just so good. I love it. So that's The Boys on Amazon. So I guess the only other thing I wanted to talk about before we jumped into games, and we really should get to games because we're forgetting that we're a gaming podcast, is that I joined the pizza club. So I joined the James and Manny pizza club this while we've been away, while we've been off. That's why we haven't been podding, because I've been eating pizza. And so Nicola found this really cool pizza oven on Kickstarter. It was a pizza oven called Stadler Made Pizza Oven. They have a website as well. And they're out in Denmark, and they're kind of just there. And it's basically a steel pizza oven. So this guy kind of made this. He was like, I was trying to get a good pizza oven, so I made my own. Typical Kickstarter story. So we ordered it. It only took a week to arrive, which was just fantastic. But it was so funny because it is steel. And it comes in sheets, so they basically cut the sheets of steel, and you've got to put it together yourself. Typical IKEA fashion. You got to put this together yourself. And so it's so funny. The UPS guy kind of turned up at my front door, kind of rang the bell, and I ran downstairs, and he was just getting some more boxes because I bought like a peel and some other accessories and things. So he was like, "I'll just leave that there," and I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll put it in the back." I was being quite facetious. I was like, "Oh, I'll put it in the back garden then." And he went, "Don't worry, no one will steal it." And I was like. And I gave him a funny look, and when I tried to pick this thing up, because it was sheets of steel, this thing was so heavy. And then just the two of us were cracking up. I was like, how the hell did you get this out of your van and to my back gate? But we got it. We put it together. It took about an hour and a half to put together. Hour and a half, couple of tears from me. And we finally got it together. Nicola kind of helped me, and we kind of got it all together. And so we've started making some pizzas. Anyone who follows me on Twitter, at Chessman UK, will see that I've been posting a lot of pizzas recently, but it was so much fun. It's all James Thomas's fault, obviously, because he was the one who kind of we went up to James's and he had a pizza oven. We was all kind of making our own pizzas, and it was just so much fun. And the way that James and his good lady wife kind of laid it all out, and we all built our own pizzas. That was the inspiration, and it's been there for about 18 months, that inspiration, and we finally did it. And it was just, I've never been so happy than this Stadler Made. I'll stick a link in the show notes, but the thing itself, it's about, I don't know, it's about maybe 4 foot high. So it's kind of like at a nice level. It's got like 2 pizza stones, one on the bottom, which obviously you cook on, another one for heat. It's a wood burning one. So I'm kind of getting used to like wood burning and stuff. But we made that for like 1 week. And obviously what you do when you buy a pizza oven is you just keep eating pizzas. So the second weekend, we kind of made some pizzas. We had some leftover dough, and I bought a cast iron like skillet, like a real kind of heavy duty cast iron skillet, and we made some like sweet pizza rolls. So we made these like cinnamon buns. and they were just so we had like some dough left over because we're making our own dough as well, obviously, and making our own sauce. So we had some dough left over, so we made some cinnamon rolls and put them in the skillet, stuck them in the morning. This is going to be great in autumn, but we stuck them in the morning while we were doing a bit of gardening, and it was just so nice. You just kind of, and the great thing I've found now is that the pizza oven gets so hot, and because it's steel, the top gets hot, and I can actually put the skillet on top of the pizza oven, and I put some bacon, or I think it was maybe pepperoni, because we had some left over from the previous night, and I just put some pepperoni in there. I thought, I wonder if it's going to cook. And this thing was like cooking away like crazy. So I'm thinking, in the autumn, you can have a nice little wood-burning stove in the garden, you can make yourself a breakfast, put some bread in the oven. This thing was really cool. So yeah, it's called Stadler Made. Like I say, I'll put a link in the show notes, and it's just like, it's just one of my favourite gadgets so far. I just absolutely love it. So it just means I've been outdoors cooking a lot more this weekend.
Eating pizza.
Absolutely. This weekend we're having a break from the pizza, and I'm actually going to be smoking a brisket. So because I've got lots of oak and lots of wood and stuff, I'm actually going to be I'm rubbing it tomorrow. So I'm going to cover it, salt, pepper, garlic salt, kind of rubbing it, leaving it overnight, and then I'm going to be smoking this thing for 10 hours. On Saturday, and I honestly, Steve, I cannot wait. I'm so bloody excited about like smoking this big bit of brisket and stuff. And it's just like, Nick was like, "What are we doing on Saturday?" I was like, "Brisket. I'm smoking a brisket." Yeah.
It's a shame that we don't record this video because your face is beaming right now.
I tell you, I got it from the online. I got a piece of brisket from the online Scottish butchers that my brother-in-law got me into. That I've now got Stuart addicted to. But they kind of sent me the brisket, and it wasn't very big. It wasn't like a big slab. It was all rolled and tight. And they're so good. It's such a great butchers that they've taken all the fat off, and this thing's a gorgeous piece of meat. So I've just left. I left that in the oven. In the freezer, and I went to my butcher's today, and I was like, I want a piece of brisket, and they went and got this ginormous slab, and they were like, right, how much of this do you want? And luckily Nicola was with me because I was like, all of it,
all of it, give me it.
Like 8 times bigger than my barbecue, and it was just like, so they cut me this really good slice. They said, "Oh, do you want me to trim the fat off?" I was like, no, leave the fat, because I want to do that on Friday night. I want to do some trimming of the fat before I start rubbing it. I said, that's all the fun stuff. I said, so leave that for me. And he was like, okay. And he was really chuckling at me in the butcher's today. So I've got this ready. It's in the fridge. Getting out tomorrow, going to trim the fat, tidy it up a bit, and then rub it with like salt and pepper and garlic salt and other stuff, and then going to be smoking it with oak on Saturday. And I cannot wait. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. So do you have a smoker for that then as well? As
no, I'm good.
Outdoor smoker.
No, I'm using my Weber barbecue. So
you're using the barbecue.
Yeah. So I've got one of those ones that close over, so it's like a dome,
right?
So I can open it up at the bottom and at the top, put logs on there, and basically we'll be able to have the heat at the back of the barbecue and the brisket at the front, and then that's just gonna just sit there at a nice 100. I've got a little thermometer on it, and I've got an internal thermometer that I can plug in as well. So that's going to keep it at a nice 150 degrees for about 6 to 8 hours. Then I'll get it out, wrap it, and then kind of do it for the rest, and put it back. So cannot wait. Honestly, yeah. I'm just so excited.
Yeah, well, we've our neighbour. He's got like a full on smoker. He's got a barbecue and a separate smoker.
No way.
I think it was last week, the week before, he did like a pulled pork.
Oh yeah,
and then like a barbecue pulled pork, and oh my word, like it left it on like really low, but like you say for like 10, 12 hours or something. Oh my word, just get a couple of brioche buns with some pulled pork, some coleslaw. Oh yeah, I'm anybody's pulled pork. You know what I mean? It's like get a couple of beers and that, and I'm sold. I'm anybody's.
I'm trying to figure out what beers I need to get for the brisket. So I need some beers for the brisket. I'm trying to I've got some nice buns. I've got some nice barbecue sauce, and I haven't made my own this time. So Saturday night is just going to be, it's just going to be heavenly. Cannot wait. Anyway, enough of that. I'm hungry again. I've just had my dinner. So only kind of like about half an hour into it. But let's jump into the game, Steve. So what have you been playing, sir?
So the couple of games that I've been playing predominantly. So I absolutely drilled the hell out of Borderlands 2 when it came out on Game Pass, because that kind of I've been I've been thinking about it for a while now in terms of, I've always seen it on offer with Games with Gold and that sort of thing, but it's on discount, it's quite heavy discount. Should I get it? Should I not get it? And It's one of them things that I never got around to playing. Then as soon as it came on with Games Pass, I was like, right, I'm having you this time. Because obviously we're getting Borderlands 3 next month now, in September. Is that right? Because we're in August.
September 13th.
Yeah. So I thought, right, well, I'm gonna have you now. So I downloaded that pretty much straight away, and I just played that from beginning to end. Just absolutely rinsed it. I just every night for probably a week and a half, 2 weeks, just for a few hours at a time. Just absolute. I was in it for the grind on that one. I was determined to complete it because I've completed it on multiple consoles previously because obviously of how I say, well, quote unquote, how old it is now. But played it on 360. Played it on the Xbox before on PS4, and then on the Vita and other. I think I've even played it on PC at one point.
Oh wow!
But when it first came out on Game Pass, they had the incentive that for the first 2 weeks, I think, 3 weeks, that the free DLC for bridging the gap between Borderlands 2 and 3, you were eligible for that. So I was determined to kind of complete it again, kind of get back up to speed, play the bridging DLC, and then kind of hoover up the other DLC that comes with the Handsome Jack collection as part of that package. So I really enjoyed it, and Borderlands is one of the games for me that it's a bit silly, it's a bit stupid, but by the same token, it's one of them games that you can just literally sit and play and not really pay that much attention to. If you just want something a bit, just to sit and play something and not really have to put much thought into it, I think that's kind of one of those games that you can just go shoot a few things, do a couple of missions, and then kind of put it down and then come back to it the next day. So I kind of finished the main story off of that. I've played the DLC that bridges the gap between Borderlands 2 and 3, and then started the Pirate DLC, which I can never remember the name of all the DLCs because there's that many, but I started that one. Then I kind of put it down, but I haven't gone back to it yet. But I didn't want to get burnt out from it in terms of play it too much, that when it comes to Borderlands 3 next month, it's kind of... it's a bit samey.
You need to put some distance between you and Borderlands. What was the bridging DLC like? Because that's the one thing I haven't tried. We downloaded it. So, like I say, I think it was like for about July, wasn't it? I think for July it was free to kind of download. What's it like? Is it good? For me, I want to jump into that, but my save is on the 360, so I think I've lost my save. So did you see any way of being able to kind of join that as kind of quite high level, or get a character that was high level, or did you just take your character into that?
I wanted to play the full game again before I started that DLC anyway, to kind of... There's not much of a story to Borderlands, I'll admit, but I kind of wanted to get back to grips with in terms of how the main game finished, in terms of how it went from that to the DLC, then obviously in turn to Borderlands 3. So I think you can play that pretty much if you just start Borderlands 2. I think you can just play the DLC.
Right.
But it wouldn't be... I don't think it'd be advised. Borderlands doesn't scale up in terms of your level. It's kind of just certain areas have got certain level enemies. Yeah. And they are quite challenging. It kind of gives you a warning, I think, at the start of it in terms of spoilers and difficulty and that sort of thing before you do commit to actually playing the DLC. In terms of a difference between that and Borderlands 2, there isn't much new in there, but I think probably the reason behind that mainly is it's kind of more of a tying the ends up together, more of the story rather than getting you ready for Borderlands 3 in terms of new mechanics, new weapons, areas, that sort of thing. So without kind of... I don't think we're really in spoiler territory, really, but kind of at the end of Borderlands 2, you kill Handsome Jack, but then it's kind of Sanctuary kind of gets taken over again, and then you have to save Sanctuary again. So then you get transported to a different, a new area, like a new world sort of thing. You meet a couple of new characters, you meet the new enemy, and then obviously the old kind of characters from the original game come back as well. But in terms of showing you like a massive new area, there's nothing huge there. It's kind of a bit samey, a bit safe in a way, but like I say, I think that the DLC more fits the bill in terms of it ties the ends together of the story.
Right. And
fits things together nicely as opposed to showing you anything new, because if it kind of showed you everything new in the DLC, then obviously there'd be no reason to play Borderlands 3, obviously. So, but as a piece of DLC, I think it's about 4 or 5 hours or something, depending on how.
Not too bad,
it's one of them. It depends because there's kind of side objectives to it as well. So it's kind of with Borderlands, obviously, you can just play the story, but there's 1,000,001 side quests to do as well. So it depends if you just stick religiously to the story or you want to do a few side quests as well. So if you want to kind of do a couple of side quests as well, I reckon you probably get 4 or 5 hours out of it. So, and explored and kind of went the whole hog. So, but I enjoyed it. But if you enjoy Borderlands, you're going to enjoy this DLC, and inevitably you're going to enjoy Borderlands 3. But it kind of does beg the question as to, beyond the new world and obviously the gazillion sort of different variations of weapons that they offer in each game, what new mechanics are going to be there? Because I think my main criticism of Borderlands really is that it's a bit fetch questy. It's kind of a bit go there, do that, or go get that and come back and da-da-da-da-da, which, again, it depends how creative they want to be in terms of, because it's like I say, it's a bit more one of those games that doesn't require too much thought. It's a shoot 'em up, really, isn't it? It's kind of more of a run and gun game, so it depends how in depth they want to be. But I imagine that it will be a bit more expansive, few more areas, worlds. The areas will be a bit bigger and hopefully a little bit more creative. But Borderlands has always been silly, a bit stupid, and kind of the missions in there have just been like, literally a couple of missions like run and jump off a cliff and die, or just go shoot this guy in the face, or whatever. Do you know what I mean? So I hope in some ways that the fun side of it and the stupidity and the silliness is there, but by the same token, there's a little bit more in-depth missions in terms of beyond just going, go here, do that, go here, do that, go here, da-da-da-da-da-da. But I imagine, just from looking at the new enemies, I'll say, for want of a better phrase, I hope there's a bit more sort of, the creative creatures and animals they've got in there from Borderlands 2. I hope there's some more of those coming in as well. But, I imagine that the midgets will feature quite extensively, as they did in Borderlands 2, in their various...
You can't have a Borderlands without psycho midgets, you need to have those. So I just love it. I just love the way they come up with the characters, the different names of the characters, it's just, Borderlands has always been a good fun. Nicola and I have played so much, we played all of their 3 games, and with Borderlands 1, we played that twice, kind of played that through twice. What's it like? Are you playing solo? Are you playing kind of co-op with anyone, or?
It was a bit of both. I mean, it was predominantly solo, but one of the lads that I grew up with, I kind of jumped in and out of co-op with him every now and again, because again, I think the beauty of Borderlands and its main appeal is playing as co-op or with a few other people.
Yeah.
So it's something you can play on your own entirely, but I think the fun is when you've kind of got a little bit of a crew together sort of thing, so 50-50 really. So I think I started it for a while. He was way behind me, then I kind of let him catch up, so we played a little bit on his own, then again joined up again at a later time to kind of jump on again. So I enjoyed, as long as it's kind of like co-op with somebody that I know, I quite enjoy it. So if I jumped on with you guys or him again or somebody else that I play online with, then I quite enjoy it, because it's not one of those games that you have to worry about sharing things out evenly either. Kind of the loot, the XP, the money, that sort of thing is shared, so it's quite balanced in that sort of way. It'd be good in Borderlands 3 if they did something like The Division, whereas if you're 2 different levels, that the world that you're playing in would kind of balance out a little bit, because there was a couple of occasions that might be a little bit of a ways in. But yeah, I played it in both, and I enjoy it in both senses of the game in terms of co-op and single player. So I imagine the co-op side of things will also be a major pull for Borderlands as well. Yeah,
absolutely. I think for us, a rule of thumb was always the person with the lowest level was the host, because they probably had missions that you needed to go and kind of, could do together. And that way, if you were higher, then unless you were trying to kind of maybe kind of get them up, because I remember when I was playing Borderlands 1, Nicola and I kind of like, we kind of jumped into the game straight away when it first came out. And I remember my nephew jumping in later, and so he basically we're in the open world, and I would just go out and shoot some right in the first game where you just go out of that compound, and I would just shoot some skags, shoot some psychos, and then he was just like level up, and he was just like, he was loving it, he was like, this is amazing, because he was just like getting to a level, and then we could then jump into his game because he was a nice level now, and then we could then start going. So it was always good for fun, but I totally get what you mean. It would be really good with 3, that no matter which way you do it, everything just kind of levels around, which would be really cool.
Yeah, it'd be good if they got a certain, and again, a little bit like in the Division, in terms of a couple more sort of events or sort of public events, but if there was just more of a, if it increased the chance of certain things happening, or certain things that could only be done with a certain number of people, or whatever, to kind of give it a different twist to it. Do you know what I mean? To kind of give you something different every time you played it. So this might happen differently if you play on your own, to 2 people, to 3 people, to 4 people, sort of thing. So it'd be interesting to see if they do anything like that, or it's kind of just literally another version of Borderlands and then just co-op and it's the same game. Do you know what I mean? But I imagine they do something different because, I mean, Borderlands 2's how...
That's what I was just about to say. You can imagine, like, when Borderlands came out, it was a fantastic game, and it's still a great game now, but because the landscape in that kind of game with Destiny, Division, all of the Anthem, if you will, all of that sort of stuff, has really kind of changed that landscape. So having those public events and things like that, you can just imagine that they need to... I'm just looking, Borderlands 2 is 2012.
Pretty much 7 years to the day, won't it?
7 years, yeah.
September 2012. But yeah, I kind of remember when Borderlands 1 and 2 came out, because everyone was kind of comparing it to Fallout, weren't they? In terms of the post-apocalyptic sort of environment, a little bit open world, wasteland, that, but it kind of was with the setting, but in terms of how each game plays out, massively different. Hugely different, given that in terms of, Fallout 76, in terms of that, in terms of if they pull any sort of ideas from there or not. I wouldn't want it to be, which it isn't, I wouldn't want it to be sort of that online environment, but if they could pull ideas from that, and like you say, from The Division, from Anthem, from Destiny, I think that'd make Borderlands 3 a pretty good game for everyone involved, really.
I'm quite excited about it. I think it's kind of one of my big games of the year. You got Gears 5, Borderlands 3, Star Wars Last Jedi, those kind of games, Luigi's Mansion on Switch, those games. I think that's kind of my back half of the year. I think all of those games. It's really funny because Gears of War comes out on the 5th of September. Yeah. So you got 5th of September, you got Gears of War, and then the following Friday, so that's like comes out on a Thursday, the following Friday you've got Borderlands 3.
Take the week off.
Absolutely. I said to Nicola, we need to get through Gears so we're ready for Borderlands. And she was like, we can't rush Gears of War. She was like, Borderlands will have to wait. And at one point I gave her a double cartoon take. Like, what?
You sulk in a corner somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Shut your mouth, woman. Shut your mouth. But anyway, so that's Borderlands 2. What else have you been playing, Steve?
So the only other thing that I've really been playing apart from that was I started Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which I know you and Stu were talking about a couple of podcasts ago now. So I quite enjoyed the reboot of the Tomb Raider franchise because it's the female equivalent, for want of a better phrase, of Uncharted, really.
Yes.
And I quite, when it's a bit sort of Uncharted, it's a bit Assassin's Creedy, it's free roaming, climbing, exploring, bit platforming, that sort of thing. And back in the day when Assassin's Creed was kind of really coming out every year, that was kind of a little bit my butter, a bit of blanket for me, just something to play and quite enjoy regardless of it coming out every year. And is a little bit of that, really. And it's kind of a halfway house in a way between Uncharted and Assassin's Creed. So, albeit I've only a few hours in, but it's kind of, it kind of scratches that itch, really, in terms of just having some sort of, like, say, a platformer, a little bit of exploration, a bit of a shooter. It's kind of balances that out quite nicely. And it looks really nice on the X as well, in terms of the actual environments, the textures, the detail, that sort of thing. And I think they've come in for a little bit of a criticism, the Tomb Raider games, in terms of for being a little bit too similar to Uncharted, that sort of thing. But, it kind of is. But you kind of got to remember that Tomb Raider kind of did this in a different way kind of before that. So this is kind of Tomb Raider's heritage. So it's kind of like they've got to kind of go down that steer to kind of keep the franchise kind of aligned to its, to its history. So, but I quite enjoy it. Again, it's quite easy playing. It kind of, I like the puzzles. I like, the little bit of a challenge that's in there, from the tombs, the puzzles in there, in terms of trying to challenge tombs, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
That gets you thinking a little bit in terms of how do I do this? And there's always that little sort of, because I like how it's kind of an open area followed by like a one-way area, in terms of you need to go this way, have to go this way, then there's kind of an open area between that you're free to explore, then it kind of gets those open areas. There's always that little bit of, I could go down there, or I could go that a bit, and then it either leads to a challenge tomb or a secret area or something, I quite like how even in the sections where it's, it's a bit closed and it's kind of forcing you one way to go, then there's still that little bit somewhere that you kind of go off the beaten track and discover a little way around it. But I think it's quite slick, quite polished in terms of the cover, the climbing, the exploration. I think it's quite a polished a polished game in terms of its playability, in terms of and its enjoyment as well. But to have those games on Game Pass, again, I think every time that we talk, it's pretty much a praising of Game Pass. And we must sound like real Xbox fanboys, but it's like to have that on Game Pass. I've not really been playing anything else but beyond Game Pass games because it's look what on there. Do you know what I mean? And I know it's not a brand new game or a new release game, but it's still a recent game. Do you know what I mean? So it's still a game that's well worth playing. And if you've not played any of them, I think are all three of them, or at least a couple of games on there, Tomb Raider games on there. So
no, all of them are on there. So Tomb Raider, Rise, and Shadow are all on there. And so they're all on Game Pass right now.
Yeah. So it's like if you want to go back and play all three of them, they're all there and they're all games, and I've enjoyed all of them. It's kind of a little bit of me, as it were. Like I say, I like those sort of Assassin's Creedy, Uncharted exploration, a puzzle, climbing, shooting, that sort of thing. So I've been quite enjoying it. So yeah, so I'm going to go back into it. I must admit, like I say, I've kind of only got into the starting sort of 5 or 10 hours of it, and kind of need to delve a little bit deeper into it. Now I've kind of put Borderlands to one side, so I kind of want to get these side games, as it were, finished off before like the bigger games come out next month. Like you say, I'll inevitably get Gears, because Gears will be coming out on Games Pass with it being a Microsoft game. Then Borderlands, I'll get Borderlands. So I kind of want to get the games that have been on my digital pile of shame kind of polished off before we get to silly season of September, October, November, before everything comes out at once.
Absolutely. I mean, it's quite funny because obviously Madden marks the start of silly season, really. The kind of the gaming calendar always starts with a Madden game, and I think that comes out tomorrow. I think Madden comes out tomorrow. I jumped into the 10-hour EA Access trial over the weekend. So I thought, I can tell, as I said to you guys on the WhatsApp group, I can tell that you guys have been rubbing off on me because I got excited about a Madden game. I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to download this. So I downloaded the game and played I played the All-Star game at the start, so which was really cool. Does that actually happen in real life? Do you have an All-Star game where everybody wears their own helmets?
It's the Pro Bowl, not necessarily an All-Star game, but the Pro Bowl is basically where all the best teams from the AFC and the NFC play against each other, but they wear their own helmets and what have you. But
so they have like the red and the blue jerseys, but they keep their own helmets on.
Yeah.
So that was fantastic. I played that, so I kind of played the opening one, which was that looks absolutely stunning. Every year Madden just gets kind of better and better. And this year there were a couple of kind of moments where you just went, wow, a couple of camera angles that were just absolutely just stunning. So I played that. I got a bit cocky because I should have just stayed in arcade mode, but I jumped into franchise mode. And so I got into franchise mode and it started firing things at me. And I'm just like, Steve, James, Matt, where are you? I need you. I need you.
Help.
So I just kind of came out of that and went back into arcade mode. I was like, I'll just be the San Francisco 49ers and then just kind of play games that way, So I just kind of jumped in and played, but I just enjoyed it. I enjoy playing Madden on normal in those kind of arcadey modes, kind of winning some, losing some, but just having a good old laugh. And like I say, it was the 10-hour trial was just was good fun. I think I've done about 6 hours still left. So even though it's out, you still got that trial continues. I think they kind of sent you, if you download it from EA Access, you then get sent an email or a message on Xbox saying, make sure you quit out of that game. Otherwise it just continues counting the 10 hours, even though you're not in it. So if you basically just fired up the game, played for an hour and then turned off your Xbox and went to bed, you would use up your 10 hours. You have to actually you have to go hamburger button and quit, as you're kind of, I know. They just obviously didn't put an internal clock on there, or game time played. So I managed to unlock some achievements, for Madden, which is always good. So even though it's a 10-hour trial, a demo, if you will, you're still unlocking, achievements, which is great. But, for me, that's one of the great things about EA Access. I'll play this 10-hour trial. I probably won't even get to the end of the 10-hour trial, but then later on in this year, maybe early next year, it will come out on EA Access. You know, it will come out to just kind of download as part of their Vault games. And for me, you know, that is just perfect. You know, I'm just getting into NFL, you know, just interested. So, you know, I don't need to know the new rosters. I don't need to know any of that. So for me, just an old game for every now and then, just chucking it on. Because I'm gonna struggle this year because there's no Forza. So my Saturday morning game, which is normally chuck on a Forza, listen to a podcast, you know, my normal kind of game of drinking coffee, eating breakfast and playing some racing games. I might have to put Grid because the re-release of Grid or the new Grid is coming out. So I might have to get that, and Grid might have to replace Forza, because I unlocked an achievement this week in Forza Motorsport 7 that I've been trying to get for about 18 months, which was I got the achievement because of collecting 500 cars, and I got that, and then I think a pack was released, and then suddenly I saw another achievement, and you know, the progress bar, it was like, well, you're already kind of, you know, because it was 700, I was 500, it was like, well, you're already like 70%, and I was like, I'm going to do it. So
you may as well carry on.
Exactly. So every week I've been jumping into the Forza.net, you know, the Forza hub, claiming my weekly cash prize, going in and buying new cars. So you go into the car collection, I've been finding the next car. And obviously, as I've been kind of going to like collection 1, collection 2, tier 1, tier 2, it starts getting more expensive. So the first couple of months, I was like, I'll buy 10 cars for my 350,000 that I get every week. But then when you get down to kind of like, when you're down to like tier 3 or 4, you can just buy one car. But then at the weekend, I was playing Madden and I thought, well, right, I'll go into Forza, do my thing. And then at the weekend, I noticed that I was like 98%. So I was like, right, I'm just going to play Forza. And I just played Forza 7. And then Nicola's playing Horizon Zero Dawn at the moment. She's loving Horizon Zero Dawn. She's finished it. She's now onto the Fraser Wilds DLC. So she's playing games on a big TV. So I thought, right, that's it. I've got a couple of podcasts. I'm a bit behind on a few. I'm just going to jump in. Jumped in, got the Platinum Collector achievement, which only 0.66% of Forza Motorsport 7 players have. I was like, there's just a very tiny percentage of lunatics that will do that. So I just went in, got that achievement, and I felt quite good. So I was just like, I was jumping between Madden and Forza 7, so it was really good fun. It was the OCD in me that just kind of kicked in. It was like, I'm 90%, I'm 95, I was 98 at the weekend, and I just thought, I've got to do it. I've just got to do it. And I was so close. I was like, I'm not going to let it go. And I just went in, did it, and it was awesome. But, so on top of that, I have also been jumping into Mario Maker 2. So I've been kind of giving the Switch a good bashing. So I've been playing Mario Maker 2. So jumped into Mario Maker 2, when it came out on the kind of release, and I've been playing the campaign mode. So you start the game, and one of the toads presses a reset button, and the castle basically just demolishes it. It resets. The castle demolishes itself. So you then have to start unlocking stars in order for them to rebuild the castle. So if you get 4 stars, or if you get 10 stars, or whatever it was, 100 stars will unlock this left wing, and then they start building the left wing, and then you have to play more levels to then kind of get them to unlock it. And there's probably about 100 levels, I think. Even when the castle is fully restored, there's even more levels out there. So I've been playing Mario Maker, and it's been really cool. The levels that are there in the box that are created by Nintendo are just amazing. You know, it really gives you, here's an idea for a level to build your own. You know, if you play through that first 100, you come away going, I could build a level that had this, and I could build a level that did that. You know, I've dabbled with building levels. Mine are quite simplistic. They're quite easy. I'm always in 3D world. I think, you know, because of the graphics look nicer. So I've been playing that. So I finished the story mode. And then a young Matthew Thomas sent me a level that he had made in Mario Maker. I should actually find the code. I'll put the code in the show notes. So he sent me a level that he had made, and I couldn't complete it. And I spent too long on this level, Steve. And it got to the point where, I just wanted to punch him in his stupid little face. I just kind of like, there was no checkpoints. It was just evil. This level was evil. He'd complete it because you have to complete it in order to publish it. I just kept. So I got to this point. There was some jumps and it was all going well. And I managed there was some real precision jumping. Got to a point. I thought, this is great. I've done it now. But no. Now you have musical notes and you're being thrown up in the air and you've got to try and do some more precision jumping, and I just couldn't do it. And I was sitting in bed one night and I was just doing it and I just kept going, damn you, Matthew Thomas, damn you, Matthew. And I was just like, and Nick was like, what's up? And I'm like, I'm trying to play Matt's level, and bear in mind, every time you lose, Matt knows about it because his play to clear ratio obviously starts going down because like the more times I'm playing it and dying, he's getting more kind of evil, and maniacal. And I was just like, so I said to Nicola, I said, hey, here you go, have this. And so I gave her my Switch and I went downstairs, to a blue. And when I came back, the Switch was like right at the end of the bed. And I was like, did you do it? She was like, no. And I never want to play that ever again. So she was like, why would anyone do that? I was like, I know, right? He is just mean. And this level really did. I've seen some crazy way out there levels for Mario Maker on Twitter. But this level, the Matt, friend of the show, Matt kind of did. It just honestly, I say friend with gritted teeth now. I do. Next time I see him, I will just punch him just for the hell of it. Even if it's an EGX in October, I'm storing up that punch that I'm going to give Matt, for when I see him. And it was just the fact that kind of, I thought I'd done it and I did all of that. And then I got to these things that were all these notes that were flinging me up in the air, really hard to jump on. And I just was like, no, this has gone from being enjoyable to just downright frustrating and annoying. So I decided to stick a pin in Mario Maker. I'm stick a pin at Matthew Thomas. Stick a pin in Mario Maker, and I jumped into Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. Now this is a game that I am absolutely loving. So have you ever played any of the Ultimate Alliance games?
No, in all honesty, no. Despite my love for Marvel.
Yeah, they've been on Vita, they've been on PlayStation, I think they've been on Xbox as well, but they're kind of almost like a top-down, think Diablo. Think Diablo with superheroes, that's kind of where you are. And this game it's Ultimate Alliance 3, I think it's like the Dark Order or something like that, and it follows Thanos. So you got Infinity Stones, so it starts off with like Thanos has the Infinity Stones, and then, your Guardians of the Galaxy to start off with, and you manage to defeat Thanos, and the Infinity Stones go out into the galaxy and you need to try and get them. So you start off as Guardian of the Galaxy, you've got all of the standard players, and then it quickly you meet the Avengers, then you meet the X-Men, and then as you're doing that, the bosses go from obviously, kind of Thanos to, I did have it written down in my little notebook as I've been playing the game, which I can't get. So you have Thanos, you have Ultron, you've got Dr. Octopus, those Doc Ock at one point. When you find the X-Men and join the X-Men, you have Sentinels, which is really cool. And then at one point, a Sentinel gets an Infinity Stone, and you have like an Infinity Sentinel or Ultra Sentinel or whatever it is. And these things are just crazy. But the great thing that I love about this game is it's just fun. Sitting on the train the other day going into London, I almost wanted to go back home again. I wanted to do the journey again. It's like, can I go to Hastings? And I never want to go to Hastings. I'm like, can I go to Hastings? I just want to go far. Just turn this train around and go back, and because I just sat there and I was just enjoying it. And my time, I sat down, headphones on, listening to the game and playing it. And the journey was over in no time. I just didn't have. Even on the way home, there'd been problems on the line, and I was standing up, and I didn't care because I had my Switch and I was playing this game. So at the moment, my team of 4, because you get to every time you meet X-Men and Avengers and Inhumans. I met the Inhumans last night as I was playing through. You can then start recruiting these people into your team. So right now, I've got Hulk, Wolverine, Deadpool, and Iron Man. It's a real sausage fest in my team right now. So I've got Hulk, Wolverine, Deadpool, and Iron Man, and it's just so great because what happens is each one has you have a health bar, you have a special abilities bar, and you can equip up to about 4 abilities. So you hold down the R button, ZR or whatever it is. And then you can then choose which special that you want to kind of have. You have a high, light, and a hard punch. And so you've got some real abilities going on and some real, excuse me, that's the beer. You can mix it up. You can really mix it up, so which is great fun. But when it really comes in and then the screen just goes bananas is when you kind of fill up your ultimate meter. And then by double tapping on the 2 little buttons at the top, if your other characters on screen have also got their ultimate meter up, so if they're all flashing at the same time, you can do an ultimate combo with all 4 of your characters. And as you keep pressing, they all kind of come in as a slice. It's like Iron Man, Hulk, Wolverine, Deadpool, and then you just let it go, and numbers and craziness just kind of happens on the screen. And the Switch, it's only available on Switch at the moment, and I haven't docked it into the TV because my Switch is always in handheld mode. But the Switch is doing really well in handling this. The graphics are great. There's been very little slowdown. I think maybe once I was doing one of those ultra combos and there was a sentinel there and there was so much activity happening on the screen, it might have juddered for a bit. But I'm finding it's just kind of working really well. And so Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 is, it's really good. The story is, like I say, it's jumping all over the Marvel universe and gone from X-Men to Guardians of the Galaxy. Like I say, I've just met the Inhumans. We've already caught up with Doctor Strange. It's really kind of going through the who's who of Marvel. I've already met Miles Morales. So Miles Morales, Spider-Man, Gwen Stacy, so Spider-Gwen. There's just so many to choose from. But right now, the Hulk, I've got the Hulk because he does some really big power moves. So when I'm coming up against big guys, he's really cool. Wolverine, just obviously because he's Wolverine and the claws. Iron Man, because he's awesome. Iron Man does this one special ability where, I don't know if you've seen like Iron Man 2, where they do the spin around, where he kind of like spins around and he has like a laser. So he's almost doing he does that on, so when you've got your meter up, you can just keep doing that. And it really does clear the proximity, so it's really good fun. So that's Marvel. And I just what with Mario Maker 2 and Marvel Ultimate Alliance, I'm really giving the Switch some love at the moment, because before that I was kind of struggling for what to play next on that, but now those two are really good.
The Switch does seem like quite a good place for that game, though, in terms of that sort of style of game. Like you say, in terms of it's good to hear that it kind of handles it quite well as well in handheld mode, in terms of like your runs. So, cause that's obviously the one of the biggest fears that people had about the Switch when it was undocked, wasn't it? So it's nice to see that it is kind of, when it's ported to the console, that it's done so that it can actually maintain.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I say, I've really enjoyed it. I know over the weekend, Wolfenstein, the Wolfenstein Young Blood, a demo popped up on the Nintendo eShop.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about just trying that out just to see how that looked. I think we'll get onto it a bit later in one of our news stories, but I'm slightly concerned at those bigger titles, because one game that I thought would just be amazing, and it's one game that I keep hovering over whenever I'm kind of like a Saturday evening and I'm thinking about what to play, The Witcher or The Witcher 3, the game that launched this podcast. I think the very first game that Darren and I were talking about was The Witcher, and I keep wanting to go back on Xbox, but I hear it's coming to Switch as well. And I just thought this would be perfect on the Switch, depending on obviously frame rate and how it looks.
As great as it would be to play it on the go, have to do to make that run on the Switch, because even on just a standard PS4 and an Xbox One when it first came out, it looked fantastic. Like, how much are they going to have to either out of it or scale it down in terms of the textures, the details,
draw distance,
the finish? Yeah, exactly. To actually make it run on a handheld console like the Switch, which it's kind of a little bit of like Skyrim in terms of, they can get Skyrim on a Switch, but more so the challenge of getting The Witcher on than the Skyrim, because it was a PS3 game. So obviously now this is a PS4, and how's that going to fit on there, let alone getting an Xbox, a 360 or a PS3 game on there? They're going to have to do a lot of work, I think, to make it run well, because if not, I think it will be a bit of a mess. But I'd be happy to play it on the Switch. Because like I say, just to be able to just nip in and out of it like you do if you're going on a train, just to kind of do whatever. But how they achieve that, I have no idea. You know what I mean? In terms of, again, getting it on a like, will they have to have a certain amount of cartridge and a massive download, like a massive digital download? It's like, because if there's a huge digital download, are people going to have a cartridge big enough, like a memory card big enough for that? Or, so interesting. Because when's that due to come out?
I think it's October. I think it's coming out in October. And also, this week, Obsidian Games announced that the Outer Wilds, the game that's coming to Xbox, coming to Game Pass, is also coming to the Switch. And I just thought, if we have cross-progression, then that would be fantastic. Because Outer Wilds, imagine Outer Wilds, you just go and do all of your farming, foraging, all of your side quests on your Switch, and then you get home, upload your save, cross progression, then play the Xbox One X version of it with all of the stuff that you've just been doing on the train. But again, it's kind of what do we have to lose? But if you're just doing side quests, then I wouldn't mind that, but it has to have, I'm just going to have a quick look on Amazon. So Witcher 3 Switch, there it is. Witcher 3 on the Switch. Oh no, it just says this item will be released by December 25th. Right,
okay.
So there's no release date for it yet.
Yeah. I suppose in a way, in some ways, it might be what Microsoft's trying to do with the cloud, isn't it? In terms of all the games on the Xbox being available on demand on mobile, tablet, whatever device. So I guess in a way, it'll kind of be like that in terms of you can play it on a mobile of a shrunk down, a lesser quality format. Like you say, just go, this is on the go, and then full game on the home console. So, but I agree. It's a cross-platform, that interwoven sort of infrastructure between PS4, Switch, Xbox One, and then in turn the next generation of consoles. In terms of if that all fits together and pieces together, that'd be incredible. In terms of just trying taking whatever game platform on them when you get home, like Borderlands, for example. Do you know what I mean? In terms of if that worked, taking Borderlands on, because obviously Borderlands was on the Vita at one time, so it would be, stretch possibility. Is it coming to the Switch yet? Or is it, I don't know if it is or not. I don't think it's been announced, but I wouldn't be surprised if somewhere along the line it does happen.
Yeah.
But that'd be great.
I just had a quick Google for Witcher 3. It's actually, there was something on Nintendo Life about 12 hours ago saying that the Switch version of the Witcher 3 Wild Hunt has been rated by the ESRB. So if the game is rated, that must mean that it should be quite soon.
Quite short time ahead of before actual releasing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So, but that'd be interesting.
I would love that cross progression. Like I say, have a game. You imagine Viva Pinata Trouble in Paradise. I always have to get that in.
Always comes back to Viva Pinata.
Exactly, but you
it?
imagine sitting on the train, doing your garden. Kind of just designing your garden, designing the garden, doing the layout from maybe a top-down perspective, using the touchscreen, and then when you get home, you just upload your save to the Microsoft Cloud, and then fire up your Xbox One X, and then you can then just play the rest of the game with your new garden that you've just done, or just be in there kind of just creating and cultivating your garden on the go, and then playing with it kind of when you got home at night. I just think games like that, side quests, as I was saying, the Obsidian game, the Outer Wilds, that could be quite interesting, if they kind of do that. We don't know if there's going to be cross progression yet, but it's definitely coming to the Switch. Which sounds like we're starting to talk about some gaming news, Steve. So let's start.
We're getting into it.
Absolutely. So before we start the news, don't forget you can rate, review, and subscribe to this very podcast for free on iTunes, Spotify, and also YouTube. Hi, Antony here. Unfortunately, that's where we had to end this week's podcast. We had a few technical hitches when we were editing, and unfortunately, the news section that was going to be full of some great stuff, such as a teenager wins £1 million in Fortnite, Sony selling 100 million PlayStations, EA not being interested in the Switch, and also those awesome Nintendo figures. We'll probably save those for next week. So we had to end it. So that was it. I hope you enjoyed it. We've been a while, so I wanted to make sure that we still kind of got that first chat of what we've been playing, and also just some kind of general chit chat between Steve and I. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back next week. I believe James is will be podding with us next week. So join us next week for episode 158 of the Gamers Lost Part podcast, and we'll see you next week. Thanks very much. Bye.